New Right Network. Mobilizing, countering the left, energizing the right. New Right Network, home of the New Right movement.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to New Right Network, the original series, SmythTV. Your host, Brian Smith, giving you all the breaking news of the day, wrapping it all up, making sense of it, exposing the fake news, and giving you the real news. Check down in the show notes below for all the information, all the links, and all the articles I talk about, all the different tweets that I talk about as well. Everything is down in the show notes, as well as a link to the original full show notes. YouTube's like it is. I got too many notes. The show notes go way too long, so it doesn't. I can't put it all in YouTube's description. But down there in the bottom, will say full show notes, and you'll see all the details of what we're talking about today. And today, Thursday thoughts, folks. Oh my goodness! Hashtag Muellergate. First criminal referrals filed. Shoes are dropping. All on the day of hashtag National Day of Prayer. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but we'll get into all that. It's unbelievable what the Justice Department is doing and what the Democrats are saying. The Justice Department is doing their job. At the same time, the Democrats are saying the absolute opposite. They're desperate to turn this narrative. They're desperate to get away from it, get away with it, and get away from what's real. And they know how much trouble they're in for the coup, the attempted coup that they were working to pull off. And so I will break news of the day from John Solomon. Thank you so much, John Solomon, at J Solomon Reports on Twitter. I've got him on notifications. I also have Tom Fitton for Judicial Watch on notifications. Those two guys are just doing a lot of the heavy lifting, as they say, and they rightfully so, doing a lot of the heavy lifting for those in journalism that are not. And John Solomon at thehill.com. And we will get into all the details. Hillary Clinton is making the rounds again. She's coming out, and it's looking awful. We'll get to what she said and some of the backlash to that. Comey, I keep saying, I honestly thought that Comey was going to be the first one to be indicted or one of the criminal referrals filed. I believe that Comey was going to be one of the first ones, but he's not. He's not. If you haven't heard the news today, then you don't know, and I know I'm dragging it out, but I believe that Comey will definitely be referred for criminal charges. The Barr hearing highlights. It usually takes about a day after one of these hearings to where it was a long hours and hours and hours on end hearing, and it just takes time to digest, takes time for the memesters to get out there and start cutting it up and getting little pieces out and some of the best pieces out. And I've got some of the best pieces that you are going to hear. It was, regardless of what the mainstream media says, it was one of the best hearings yet. Bill Barr, just an absolute champion for the nation. Not for Donald Trump, but for the nation. I've got so much respect for Bill Barr, Attorney General Bill Barr. And you will hear Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham started to really stand up for his party and stand up for his people. Now, don't get me wrong. You got to keep Lindsey Graham at bay, keep him at bay, it is what it is. But he's definitely stepping up and standing up for what is right. Sid Blumenthal. Not Sid, sorry. I get him. Senator Blumenthal, I get him and Sid because they're both dirty. Both of them are awful. Sid Blumenthal and Senator Blumenthal, both of them bad. Dianne Feinstein gets a shellacking. Bill Barr has to take her back to school. Chris Hardball Chris. Oh, wow. Him and Kamala Harris have a little bit of a love fest. and we'll smack that one down really quick. Not hard to do. We've got Real MAGA Steve breaking news on Kamala Harris, as well as I've got in the bottom of the show notes MAGA news. I'm going to start to try and bring good MAGA news every single day, even if it's repeat news. At least it pound it in your mind again and again and again, so that you remember if anybody ever gives you any kind of grief or talks any kind of garbage about Donald Trump or about the president, about this country, about anything of that nature, you can tell them, I don't care what Trump says, I don't care what he tweets, I just care about his actions. And what is happening with this economy, what is happening with our country. Donald Trump is making the country safe again, tweeting out that 400 miles of the border wall are going to be finished by the end of the year. That's huge. Now, granted, the border wall alone is not going to stop this mass influx of immigration. I think they're talking about almost 1,000 people showed up the other day, huge swaths of people. Oh, this wasn't in the show notes, but it just tipped me off. Somebody sent me a message, said the Pope is dropping like millions of dollars on these caravans down on the border. So awful. This Pope has been such the wrong message, such the wrong type of Pope to be representing the Catholic Church. So awful, so worldly. Not godly, but worldly. I know he may have that bleeding heart. And he did go from rags to riches. Apparently, he was taking the bus, and then he got appointed as Pope. And all of a sudden, he went from a no-bedroom room to the papacy. So the rags to riches, you get it all of a sudden, and it goes to your head. Very, very upsetting about the Pope. But we'll get into some good news, and Donald Trump definitely making a big, big difference in America, crushing the globalist ideologies and turning our country in the right direction to the nationalist ideologies. Those ideologies are America first. And if you're from Canada, it's Canada first. If you're from Mexico, it's Mexico first. But while you're here in America, if you come here in America, it's America first. Don't forget about it. I'm for reals. So I've got a lot of great videos and some awesome things to show you about the Bill Barr hearings and the highlights. We'll get that towards the end of the show. But we've got to start out what has become the most laughing stock Democrat Party to ever sit in the hallowed halls of Congress. They are absolutely out of control and out of touch with the people. All their ideas, all the things they want to do are against the vast majority of what everybody in America wants. And that is why they're going to lose, because they cannot win on ideas. They also need lots and lots of money. And now we're starting to see some of the Congress people, dirty money. We got Joe Biden, as we talked about yesterday, getting money from China, money from the Ukraine and his sons, and John Kerry and John Kerry's stepson. They have to lie, cheat, and steal. They have to obtain vast, large sums of money from outside America because they can't get it in America. They cannot, they have to spend exponentially more money than Donald Trump will have to spend because they have no message. So they have to spend exponentially more, which means they've got to get exponentially more, which means they've got to do things that are probably going to be very illegal. And speaking about illegalities, we're back to Russia. And today, oh my goodness, today is a huge day. We have the first referral, criminal referral has been filed. This by @RedPillReport, referencing the GatewayPundit.com and John Solomon's article. Breaking: Representative Meadow files criminal referral against Nellie Orr after new emails to the DOJ about Russian collusion surface. Yes, folks, that is true. The new emails that have surfaced on Nellie Orr. Now, hold on. I was talking in our meeting today with all our writers, and there was a couple of young writers that Not really privy. Everybody knows about the Russia Gate and the Russia. However, there's a lot of people that don't know the name Nellie Orr. Now, for those of you who've been listening to the show, you know we've been talking about this for at least the last year and a half. And if you've listened to Follow John Solomon, or you've listened to some of the other podcasts, you may have heard. I know Sean Hannity talks about it all the time. But let me just go over real quick who Nellie Orr is. To know Nellie Orr, you've got to know Bruce Orr, her husband. Her husband, Bruce Orr, works at the very highest echelon that a civilian can rise to power in the DOJ without being appointed. So he's been in the DOJ for a very, very long time. Nellie Orr, back in the 90s, was a professor at Vassar College. She taught Russian history and referred to as a professional on Russia and the Russian language, all of that. After that, apparently she did some freelance work for the FBI having to do with Russia and investigations, and then subsequently got hired onto Fusion GPS by Glenn Simpson. Fusion GPS was paid by Hillary Clinton's law firm. The lawyers paid Fusion GPS, which in turn paid Nellie Orr. Nellie Orr and her husband, Bruce Orr, both knew who Christopher Steele was, who wrote the Russian PP dossier gate. Christopher Steele. Reports are going back that they have known him since at least 2010, maybe earlier, but at least 2010, she has known Christopher Steele, and her husband has known Christopher Steele. Christopher Steele is absolutely hates Donald Trump for whatever reasons and is desperate to do whatever it takes to get rid of or thwart the election of 2016 and Donald Trump. Nellie Orr, back in 2016, obtained her ham radio operator's license. And for those of you who don't know, it's all right. It's okay. When I was a young kid, somebody from church thought it'd be neat for me to get into a hobby and brought over a ham radio. I looked at this big giant box and I turned the knobs, and it didn't do anything for me whatsoever. Within a couple of minutes, I was bored. But the ham radio is the internet of back in the day, if you will. The audio version of the internet back in the day. This radio with radio waves can send your voice from here to Russia, all the way from America to Russia. You could talk to anybody around the world through these radio waves through ham radio. And obviously she obtained her license. Under oath, she was asked, did you talk with Russians? Did you get involved with Russians? And did you do that using your ham radio? And is that why you obtained the license? She said one word. She said no. They got into it a little bit more with her, and she kind of opened up about it. And here's this was at the Boston25news.com. Nellie Orr, and this is her testimony, was asked, have you ever communicated with anyone in Russia using your ham radio? By GOP investigators, October 19th, 2018 interview. So this is last year. She replied, I took a citizens community emergency response team training. She said that behind closed door interviews, saying it had been sponsored by the Department of Homeland Security and the local fire department. So I took the ham radio class. I passed the test. They add this footnote, Orr does live in Fairfax County, Virginia, which has an active community emergency response team program that includes amateur radio classes designed to integrate local ham radio operators into emergency response efforts. Okay. All right. I mean, whatever. I mean, she's a 50-year-old woman obtaining a ham radio license while also working for Fusion GPS in her job, her number one goal is to dig up anything Russia, compile all this information together, working for Fusion GPS, to put on a thumb drive, to then give to her husband, to then give to the FBI and circulate that information. So she's desperate to get anything Russia. She's got piles and piles of notes and notes and notes on Russian meddling, if you will, or Russian possible ties with Trump campaign employees. And if you had a ham radio, I'm just speculating. She's innocent until proven guilty. Unlike Democrats, you're guilty until proven innocent. She's innocent until proven guilty. But I speculate, because of digital technology and our cell phones and our computer forensic technology, you can track me through my cell phone. If you're the FBI, you can track me and my footprint through the internet. You could do all that stuff. You can find the information I did, like they do with these people, these mass shooters. They go back to their browser and they're able to recover, even if you deleted your information, they're able to recover all that stuff of what you clicked on, what you did. And again, I said this yesterday. James Comey said, put a piece of tape over the camera on your computer because we're watching. We're watching. So if you used a ham radio and you made a call, or a radio call, if you will, to somebody in Russia from America, the only way to trace that call, if you will, to use the terms of the older telephones, is to actually be on the airwave at that time that she broadcasts. Because after that's gone, that's out into the ether. That's gone forever. So what a very convenient way to possibly circumvent the DOJ, the FBI, the NSA, the TSA, I don't know, all the SSAs, the GHCQ, and then Russia's headquarters. Just circumvent everybody with a 30-second broadcast to somebody on the other side of the world. 30 seconds out of 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And we're talking since early 2016. Yeah, that's going to be lost into the ether. So check this out. And here's the emails. Here's what's been found out about Nellie Orr. Here's the emails. She testified, and then while she was under oath testifying, they asked her at any point prior to the fall of July 31st, so the end of July 2016, just a couple of months away from the election, prior to that point, when you had your meeting at the Mayflower Hotel, your husband, you, and Christopher Steele, the three of you met at the Mayflower Hotel, and you've already told us that. Did at any point prior to that, did you discuss your research on organized crime and Donald Trump with individuals outside of Fusion GPS, outside of this Mayflower breakfast meeting? Nellie Orr was asked this during her congressional testimony last fall. She testified under oath, no. So she said no. Now, if you guys are going to come at me with technicalities and process crimes, I understand you can do whatever you want. However, you can't lie under oath about the research you've been doing, the people you've been in contact with. I'm not talking about forgetting a word in a line. I'm not talking about Jeff Sessions happens to be at a meeting with Russian Ambassador Kislyak before coming on board to the Trump team as a congressperson. And when they asked him about Russia meddling, or have you been in contact with Russia, he said no. And they say, yes, you have, Kislyak. You just lied. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about Nellie Orr knowingly researching Donald Trump criminal activity with Russian ties for Fusion GPS. Have you met with or talked about or discussed your research anytime prior to the initial meeting you're claiming with Christopher Steele and your husband Bruce Orr at the Mayflower Hotel? She said no. All right. She directly alerted her husband and 2 DOJ prosecutors specializing in international crime 2 months earlier, May 30th, 2016. The discovery of black ledger documents in the Ukraine, reported trove of documents on the Ukrainian Party of Regions, black cash box. Nellie Orr wrote to her husband, Holtland and Wheatley, attaching a news article on the announcement of the Ukrainian release of the documents 2 months earlier. So she's already working prior to this, and you cannot tell me that she doesn't go home to her husband and talk to her husband every night about what she's doing. I talk to my wife all the time about what she's doing. This is the problem when you're working for the government, especially the Department of Defense, Department of Justice, FBI, CIA. You're working for the government. There are very strict guidelines with working with your spouse on certain things, or any kind of nepotism, or anything that you know of or connected to. Very, very strict guidelines, and highly beyond frowned upon. You'd be facing charges. So we know for a fact that she's talking to her husband at work, because now the emails uncovered, Judicial Watch filing Freedom of Information Act, John Solomon posting all this information up and writing about it, that she's been emailing her husband the whole time. She'll find articles all day long, just searching articles on Donald Trump, or not Donald Trump necessarily, but on Russia, and seeing if they can tie it to anybody. And now she finds this article about treasure trove of documents on a Ukrainian party, a black cash box, and she sends this to her husband. This is all connected to Paul Manafort. All of this is connected to Paul Manafort. Manafort has been working with Russian oligarch DePreska. He's a Russian aluminum magnate. And when we say oligarch, you pretty much, your decision-making process usually goes through the government processes. You're pretty much tied together, and that's how you've made your riches. And so that's what we believe. And so she's attempting to tie DePreska, oligarchy, and Russian ties to now. Attempted to do that, Carter Page, didn't work out. Attempted to do that to some other people, didn't work out. Now attempting to do that to Manafort. Attempted to do that to Manafort, and it actually works. Nellie, Bruce, and Christopher Steele, they targeted DePreska, the Russian aluminum magnate. This from John Solomon's article. All the links are down in the show notes, folks. This is from his article. Emails, text messages, and handwritten notes show during the 2016 campaign, they repeatedly discussed approaching DePreska about delivering dirt on Manafort. The FBI eventually did so in the fall of 2016, and that's why Manafort resigned. Back to Nellie Orr, saying that she didn't discuss any of this information with her husband or anybody else prior to the Mayflower Hotel meeting. Mayflower Hotel meeting, into July 2016. Email show she had a meeting May 30th, 2 months earlier. Email show now, March 2016. 2 months prior to that, Holtland asked Bruce. Holtland's working with Bruce and the DOJ. Holtland asked Bruce for permission for Wheatley and other DOJ prosecutors to speak to Nellie Orr, meaning he wanted to get around Bruce Orr. Do you think it's okay if we just go directly to her and not even bother you anymore? And Bruce Orr said, and they said, do you think she would be comfortable with talking to them? And would it present any conflict of interest issues for her or you? Bruce Orr forwarded the request to his wife, and they're referred to as the Hi Honey emails. Hi, honey. I trust you're okay with this. Love, B. She wrote back 2 consecutive emails with the words, sure and cool. No, not cool, not sure, not good. So Nellie Orr again, now the first one to be set up, this is by Mark Meadows, for criminal referrals. And this is an excellent thing. It couldn't be more excited that we're now getting underway with everything that's going on. And this at Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch. FOIA disclosures, 339 pages of emails. Nellie Orr help lead to criminal referral on Russiagate targeting of real Donald Trump. At John Solomon reports, breaking criminal referral filed against Nellie Orr concerning congressional testimony after emails surface showing election year contacts with the DOJ. It's all there and it's all blown wide open. This is just the beginning. First shoe to fall. The next ones are coming one right after another. I know Mark Meadows has said, and Jim Jordan has said that there are a total of 3 criminal referrals in connection with Fusion GPS, and this is the first one to fall. So I'm thoroughly happy. I'm happy with the job that they've been doing. I'm really excited about that. And as that shoe starts to fall, Hillary Clinton's shoes start falling on her. She's falling out of her shoes. Hillary Clinton. Now back in the limelight because she can't stay out of the limelight. It blows my mind. This woman just cannot stay out of the light. She just narcissist for attention. And so the Russia thing, Hillary Clinton is salty dog. She's still angry that she lost, and she's truly upset. And check this out. She goes on with Rachel Madcow and MSNBC, giving her a platform to voice, to be relevant. And our good friend at Real Saavedra tweets out about it. And Real Saavedra tweets, Hillary Clinton calls on China to illegally obtain Trump's tax returns and give them to American media. DNC Chair Tom Perez has repeatedly called on Republicans in recent days to not use stolen information. And here is Hillary asking a foreign government to steal info for the Democrats.
Why don't we ask China to back us?
I hereby tonight ask China.
That's right. And not only that, China, if you're listening, why don't you get Trump's tax returns? I'm sure our media would richly reward you. Now, according to the Mueller report, that is not conspiracy because it's done right out in the open. So if after this hypothetical Democratic candidate says this on your show, within hours, all of a sudden the IRS offices are bombarded with incredibly sophisticated cyber tools looking for Trump's tax returns and then extracts them and then passes them to whatever the new WikiLeaks happens to be, and they start being unraveled and disclosed, nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you're going to let Russia get away with what they did and are still doing, according to Christopher Wray, the current FBI director who said that last week, they're in our election systems. We're worried about 2020, he said. So, hey, let's have a great power contest and let's get the Chinese in on the side of somebody else. Just saying that shows how absurd the situation we find ourselves in.
Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
Okay, I see what she's trying to do here. She's trying to play semantics, but it's not going to work. One does not equal the other. Hillary Clinton illegally working for the IRS and illegally releasing or leaking Donald Trump's tax returns illegally is not the same as Seth Rich downloading all the information of you and the dastardly deeds you've been doing to a thumb drive and leaking that to WikiLeaks. That is different. Donald Trump jokingly said to Russia, if you can find the 30,000 deleted emails, the 33,000 deleted emails that you bleach bit and acid washed and use hammers to crush Blackberries and devices, that's completely different. You you were asked, you were demanded to hand over this information, and while you were under subpoena, went ahead and crushed, broke, and destroyed all this information. That's not the same thing as John Podesta falling to a phishing scam where he gave his password out to somebody on the internet and then they gained access. That's not the same thing as China having real-time messages sent and received from your email address. Hillary, China hacked your unsecured server, put a virus in there to carbon copy China on a minute-to-minute, second-to-second notice. Whenever you sent or received emails, China got a copy. Not the same thing. You, ma'am, are a criminal. And that was jokingly, tongue in cheek. Hey, if you can find those in the ether that are missing, that'd be love to see them because there's dirty stuff on there. You're attempting to say that Donald Trump's taxes have dirty stuff on there. Taxes are private information, and nowhere in any of our laws says that a president must give up his taxes or show his taxes. Nowhere in the world, and we as American citizens don't care about his taxes. We know he's rich. We don't care how he got rich. We just know he's making America rich again. Doing things that you guys are complaining about, you wish you could only do. And again, you've got people working for you, Hillary, that are now turning on you. So I'd be more worried about people turning on you and exposing you for as dirty as you are than to try and sleight of hand and blow more smoke. This at Tom Fitton. Clinton aide insists that monitoring Clinton's illicit use of the private email wasn't really part of my job, but adds, I wish she had used a State Department account. Hillary, even your employees are lamenting about you and what you should or shouldn't have done. And you were told to get a State Department account, and you knew by having that we'd have all the information on you, and you couldn't circumvent the DOJ, the CIA. You couldn't skirt around all of that. We know, you did it on purpose. And Judicial Watch, carrying the heavy load, Judicial Watch announced it received 756 pages of newly uncovered emails that were among the material former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton tried to delete or destroy, several of which were classified. Yeah, Hillary, you got some more things to worry about than attacking Trump and trying to stay relevant. I find it amusing, though, that you're not running for office in 2020. I do. I really do. I find that amusing. I know it must just really just pain you, just stick in your craw. So, the Democrats and their party on display, they don't have anything. And again, I said they have to raise incredible amounts of money outside of the country. They've been raising money colluding with Russia. They've been raising money colluding with China and raising money colluding with the former politicians and the higher ups of state in the Ukraine. While Ukraine tries to clean up their act and get rid of these guys, we come back to America. And what do the Democrats have to offer for 2020? What are their ideas? Where are they going? And I only bring this up because this kind of fell into Hillary Clinton and her love for abortion and Donald Trump in the last debate in 2016, just absolutely doing what no politician has ever done to another, bringing up their record and their words on abortion. And Donald Trump saying, and she's okay, by ripping the baby out of the mother's womb on the day of birth. She didn't say a word. At Real Saavedra, we've got a Democrat slipped on a little bit, got himself a little bit of trouble. Alabama State Representative John Rogers, Democrat, on abortion. Some kids are unwanted, so you kill them. Or you kill them later. You bring them into the world unwanted, unloved. You send them to the electric chair. So you kill them now or you kill them later. I am not joking. He said this. There's the Democrat Party for you right there. You kill them now, kill them later. You got me. I don't know why they think they can get away with this. Why they think that Americans would actually be okay with this. It's beyond me. Just really, really, really bad. And Comey is just, he's out there. Yeah, absolutely saying some awful things about Donald Trump. Comey making the rounds. And our friend at LO Rose S26, Joe DeGeneva on the demented statement by James Comey. James Comey's statement was how Tro co-ops leaders like Bill Barr. Quote from Comey, Mr. Trump eats your soul in small bites. Mr. Trump makes everyone a co-conspirator to his preferred set of facts or delusions. That to me sounds like projection, but whatever. And so Joe DeGeneva comes back with that and says, James Comey, American dirty cop, ate the soul of the FBI. He destroyed the FBI. And this little piece of paper, which is the FISA court ruling from 2017, where the chief judge outlines 4 years of lying by the Obama FBI and the DOJ to the court about illegal spying by 3 contractors, is going to be their undoing. The court has already informed the Justice Department extent of the lying by the Obama FBI and the DOJ. You know what? Comey can write poetry and go stand in the forest. This goofy guy, he'd better get used to it, because this is going to be his undoing. You know, I can only chalk it up to projection. I don't know what Comey's trying to obtain here, what the purpose that he's trying to do here, but it ain't good and it don't look good. It really looks awful, awful, awful. And now let's get into the Bill Barr stuff. Some highlights, some of the highlight reel. Guys, you're going to love this. There's some great stuff. I spent a good portion of the morning meeting some new friends and some new folks, posting up new videos and clips of the Bill Barr hearing yesterday. And I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I enjoy it. And check this out. This by our friend at Jeff D. Rizzo. Absolutely follow him on Twitter at Jeff DERISO. Down in the show notes, the link to his handle on Twitter is there. He tweets out, referring to Comey, a reason that loomed large there for his termination was a refusal to tell the public what he was privately telling the president, which was that the president was not under investigation. This by now the famous Bill Barr.
Generally speaking, an obstruction case typically has 2 aspects to it. One, there's usually an underlying criminality.
Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Was there an underlying crime here?
No.
So usually there is.
Usually. But it's not necessary, but
right.
The typical case, sort of the paradigmatic case is
right.
There's an underlying crime, and then the person implicated or people implicated are concerned about that criminality being discovered, take an inherently malignant act, as the Supreme Court has said, to obstruct that investigation,
so
such
one
as
of the
destroying
examples
documents.
That people were worried about, that he fired Comey to stop the Russian investigation. That's one of the concerns people had. Let me tell you a little bit about Comey. I do not have confidence in him, Comey, any longer. That was Chuck Schumer, November the 2nd, 2016. I think he, Comey, should take a hard look at what he has done, and I think it would not be a bad thing for the American people if he did step down. Bernie Sanders, January the 15th, 2017. The president ought to fire Comey immediately, and he ought to initiate an investigation. That is Congressman Nadler, November the 14th, 2016. Did you have a problem with the way Comey handled the Clinton email investigation?
Yes, I said so at the time.
Okay. So, given the fact that a lot of people Comey should be fired, did you find that to be a persuasive act of obstructing justice?
No. I think even the report at the end of the day came to the conclusion, if you read the analysis, that a reason that loomed large there for his termination was his refusal to tell the public what he was privately telling the president, which was that the president was not under investigation.
So the dirty cop Comey fired largely because he was telling President Trump, you are not under investigation. He's telling this in closed door meetings, yet he refused to tell the American public that he was not under investigation. Part of this coup, part of this overthrow had to do with James Comey and his ability to help shape the narrative. That's all this was, to help shape the narrative. And not only that, but, and as Barr said, Donald Trump has the right to fire James Comey at any time. Donald Trump has the right, because this is all in the executive branch. Donald Trump has the right to fire Comey, fire Rosenstein, fire McCabe, fire Mueller, fire Weissman. He could fire all of them. He could clean house on a bloody Sunday and just clean everybody out legally without any repercussions whatsoever. He wouldn't, and the media wouldn't allow him. But I'm just saying he is allowed to do that. The referrals are going to come for him. I promise you this. I really, really do. Comey is in a world of hurt. And at Echo the Call, follow her at Echo the Call. Truth prevails. And you can see her background cover is Donald Trump tweeted out the picture, game over. What about Mueller taking the stand? You going to call Mueller to the stand, Lindsey Graham?
Call for Mueller to testify.
Because I'm not going to do any more. Enough already. It's over. If there's any dispute about a conversation, then he'll come. But I'm not going to retry the case. I'm not calling McCann. It is over.
And he turns and walks away. And that's right, folks. At the end of the day, it is over. There is no there. There is no underlying crime. There is no crime that he was being they were investigating for a crime. Liberals, you've got to get this through your thick skull. They were investigating Trump looking for a crime. That is not how this works in America. There is no underlying crime. There is no obstruction of justice. There is no there. You've got to keep this narrative on the front page and a hot topic, because the DOJ is on the heels, hot on the heels of Hillary Clinton and her situation. Would love to see her prosecuted. I don't know if she'll ever spend a day in jail, but I would love to see her sweating in front of Congress and just wiggling, worming, just more pressure and more heat. I would love to see that happen. Who doesn't love Tucker Carlson? Donald Trump tweeted out a 5-minute, I think this is opening monologue on Russian collusion. The collusion delusion is over. I think it's a really good piece. I know it's a long clip, but I really want you to hear. Let's see if we can get through most of this real quick.
What a weird day it was in Washington, hard as it may be to believe, 2 weeks after the release of the Mueller report. But on Capitol Hill tonight, they are still yelling about Russia! It's as if the most exhaustive federal investigation in a generation never even happened. It's as if the Russia collusion story was completely real and not a ludicrous hoax pushed by ruthless partisans. It's as if facts no longer matter at all, only emotion and ambition and the overriding will to power. These apparently are the new rules in Washington. The Attorney General, William Barr, learned them today as he was summoned before the Congress. Angry Democrats interrogated Barr about the letter he wrote in March summarizing the Mueller report. Now, you might wonder why anyone would care about that letter. The entire Mueller report was subsequently released not long after the letter. That report is now available online. Anyone can read it. You can read it if you want. You can draw your own independent conclusions about what it says. You don't need Bob Barr's help. His summary is irrelevant. Now, partisans on cable TV are pretending otherwise. But let's be clear. Let's be very clear. What they are giving you is opinion. It is not fact, and they should be honest about that. The Barr letter means nothing. Again, that is fact, not opinion. So what was the point of today's hearings? Well, part of the point was to allow people like Mazie Hirono to perform for the cameras. Just a few years ago, virtually nobody outside of Hawaii had ever heard of Mazie Hirono. She was considered forgettable even by the standards of the U.S. Senate. Now she's a celebrity on CNN. Technically, she remains unimpressive. She has never written a single bill you've heard of. But when the cameras roll, Mazie Hirono comes alive. She'll repeat literally anything her staff puts on a card and hands her, no matter how extreme and stupid it might be. Here she was today.
Mr. Barr, now the American people know that you are no different from Rudy Giuliani or Kellyanne Conway or any of the other people who sacrificed their once decent reputation for the grifter and liar who sits in the Oval Office. You once turned down a job offer from Donald Trump, but when we read the report, we knew Robert Mueller's concerns were valid and that your version of events was false. You told Senator Chris Van Hollen that you didn't know if Bob Mueller supported your conclusions, but you knew. You lied. But I wasn't surprised. You did exactly what I thought you'd do. It's why I voted against your confirmation. But now, we know more about your deep involvement in trying to cover up for Donald Trump. Being Attorney General of the United States is a sacred trust. You have betrayed that trust. America deserves better. You should resign.
Reading it right off the card. Hand her the card. Here you go. She'll read it. Deep involvement in a cover-up. Now remember, Bill Barr wrote his letter on March 24th. The full Mueller report was released on April 18th. That means that for 3.5 long weeks, America was under the false impression that Donald Trump was not a Russian agent.
As Tucker said, the letter is irrelevant. You've now got the entire the whole Mueller report, 448 pages. The hell you complaining about? These Democrats are losing it. They are rolling in their seats. They can't take it. They don't know which way is up.
This is what Strzok said on February the 12th, 2016. Now, he's in charge of the Clinton email investigation. Oh, Trump's abysmal. I keep hoping the charade will end and people will just dump him. February the 12th, 2016. Page is the Department of Justice lawyer assigned to this case. March 3rd, 2016. God, Trump is a loathsome human being. Strzok. Oh my God, Trump's an idiot. Page, he's awful. Strzok. God, Hillary should win 100 million to nothing. Compare those two people to Mueller. March 16th, 2016. I cannot believe Trump is likely to be an actual serious candidate for president. July the 21st, 2016. Trump is a disaster. I have no idea how destabilizing his presidency would be. August the 8th, 2016. 3 days before Strzok was made deputy acting in charge of the counterintelligence division of the FBI. He's never going to become president, right? Page to Strzok. No, he won't. We'll stop him. These are the people investigating the Clinton email situation and start the counterintelligence investigation of the Trump campaign. Compare them to Mueller. August the 15th, 2016. Strzok. I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office, that there's no way he gets elected, but I'm afraid we can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40. August 26, 2016. Just went to the Southern Virginia Walmart. I could smell the Trump support. October the 19th, 2016. Trump is a f***ing idiot. He's unable to provide a coherent answer. Sorry to the kids out there. Everything I just said, just substitute Clinton for Trump. As to cooperation investigation, I'll tell you a little bit about what the Clinton people did for the server. And there was a request by the State Department to preserve. Paul Gambetta used a software program called to wipe this email server clean. No. See what all these people with cameras would be saying out here about this. In the Clinton. I told you what the Trump people did. There was a protective order issued by the House, all the information on the server. After having the protective order, BleachBit, has anybody ever heard of Paul Gambetta? Under a protective order from the House to preserve.
Very nicely done, Lindsey Graham. Thank you so much for dropping the F-bomb and then apologizing to the kids out there. But what he say? Speak truth to power. Think about that. Think about the shoe was on the other foot. If they were talking about Hillary Clinton like that and wanting Trump to win 100 million to 1, think about the outrage and the outcry that would be coming from the mainstream media, coming from Hillary. It would be absolute outcry on the left, but yet we get this this double standard, if you will. And so now we have an exchange here with Richard Blumenthal.
After news organizations reported that the president ordered Mr. McGahn, to have the special counsel removed, the president publicly disputed these accounts. The Mueller report establishes that, quote, substantial evidence supports the conclusion that the president, in fact, directed McGahn to call Rosenstein to have the special counsel removed. That's at volume 2, page 88. In your view, did President Trump, on those occasions and others recited in the report, lie to the American people?
Well, I'm not in the business of determining when lies are told to the American people. I'm in the business of determining whether a crime has been committed.
So he may have lied.
But I'd like an opportunity to answer some of these questions, okay? You started by citing this thing in volume 2 about how the report says that they could not be sure that they could clearly say that he did not violate the law. As you know, that's not the standard we use in the criminal justice system. It's presumed that someone is innocent, and the government has to prove that they clearly violated the law. We're not in the business of exoneration. We're not in the business of proving they didn't violate the law.
But I found that whole passage very exonerated him in your press conference.
Bill Barr, what a hero. We're not in the business of figuring out, of telling lies. We're in the business of finding a criminal act. We found no criminal acts. We're not in the business of exonerating people. They're not trying this in a court of law. That would be the next step, where then it would go on prosecution. You lawyer up, you get your prosecutor, you go head to head in front of you. That's where you defend yourself and prove yourself innocent. First, in order to go to court, you've got to find an actual criminal act, and no criminal act was found. The Democrats cannot wrap their head around this. Facts are facts, folks, and it is a real deal, and we are just absolutely enjoying every single minute of this, just roasting the Democrats. And at Declared Diane Barr, how could Trump have formed a corrupt intent to obstruct Mueller's probe if he knew he'd been falsely accused? Okay, think about that. Bill Barr said, how could Trump have formed a corrupt intent to obstruct justice, the Mueller probe, to obstruct it, if he knew he was falsely accused? Trump knew he was innocent. If he was guilty, then it would be a corrupt intent to thwart the Mueller probe. But he was innocent, and he knew he was innocent. So there's no corrupt intent. Phenomenal. I tell you, I don't know. By the grace of God, Donald Trump found Bill Barr. And all the things that people were talking about in the background, worried about Bill Barr this, worried about Bill Barr that. We've got one of the best legal minds that I've seen to be behind the Attorney General's seat. Thank goodness. All right, let's jump down real quick to Kamala Harris at Real MAGA Steve. Breaking: Kamala Harris repeatedly get embarrassed by your own questions.
Did you consult with I'm not finished.
Yeah.
Did you consult with DOJ ethics officials before you enlisted Rod Rosenstein to participate in a charging decision for an investigation, the subject of which he is also a witness?
My understanding was that he had been cleared already to participate in it. But
so you had consulted with them and they cleared it?
No, I think they cleared it when he took over the investigation.
Did you
That's
consult?
my understanding.
You don't know whether he's been cleared of a conflict of interest?
He would be participating if there was a conflict of interest.
So you're saying that it did not need to be reviewed by the career ethics officials in your office?
I believe it was. Well, I believe it was reviewed, and
what was
would also point out this seems to be a bit of a flip-flop, because when the president's supporters were challenged,
flip-flop, I think, in this case is that you're not answering the question directly.
What?
Did the ethics officials in your office in the Department of Justice review the appropriateness of Rod Rosenstein being a part of making a charging decision on an investigation which he is also a witness in?
Yeah, so as I said, my understanding was he had been cleared, and he had been cleared before I arrived.
In making a decision on the Mueller report?
Yes.
And the findings of whether or not the case would be charged on obstruction of justice, he had been cleared on that?
He was the acting attorney general on the Mueller investigation.
This is embarrassing for Kamala Harris. Absolutely embarrassing. Rod Rosenstein was cleared before Bill Barr came to the scene. So protocol had to have been followed. And if protocol was followed, then that's why he's on. What an embarrassment. Absolute embarrassment. There you go. Kamala Harris, just absolutely embarrassing yourself once again. And our good friend at Jamie RODR 14, Jamie R, Army Girl.
Why not call for Mueller to testify?
Because I'm not going to do any more. Enough already. It's over. If there's any dispute about a conversation, then he'll come. But I'm not going to retry the case. I'm not calling McCann. It is over.
And Lindsey Graham smacking the reporters down. It is over. No, ma'am. It is all over with. No more. Mueller will not testify at all. Nope. Not today, not tomorrow, not no how. Oh, man. And so our good friend at Jeff DeRiso, JEFFDERISO, once again, he's posted up a lot of great clips from the Bill Barr hearing. And I can't play this clip. I took the music out of the background of this clip. So let me play this one. But this is exactly what Senator Grassley said.
I don't think you could ever accuse him of lying for this reason, that he's totally transparent. The report's out within the law. He didn't have to release any report. The regulations don't require that. And the conclusion of the report is no crime was committed. So what more can he do?
The last time he was here, they said, has Bob Mueller expressed any concerns to you? And he said, no, and I don't know if there are any concerns. He had had a letter. He had had a phone call. Yeah. The letter clearly says there are concerns. So
he had that conversation, and you heard him say, and I have to assume that Mueller said it to him, that he was only concerned about how the media played it. So I think here's where we are. The Democrats and you folks in the media are not concerned about the report. I think you're concerned about the results weren't what you expected. And I think you were finding out that everybody was sold a bunch of snake oil, and now the jig's up.
As he walks away, the jig's up, folks. You were sold a bunch of snake oil, and the jig's up. Wow, what an incredible statement. I mean, it just couldn't be any better than that. And then real quick, let's round this out real fast with some MAGA news in MAGA news that's out there right now. And this by at DERAMETH. Attention! New Democrat planks in their 2020 platform. Mueller report. Ignoring their lack of any effectiveness in the following areas: GDP growth, lowest unemployment in almost 50 years, jobs growth. It is a great time. Records are being broken all over the American economy. And I throw this in there because this became an issue. We got Ilhan Omar blaming the situation in Venezuela on America, and it's America's problem. America caused all of this. Nikki Haley retweeted out to her at Ilhan MN. The average Venezuelan adult has lost 24 pounds, which is referred to as the Maduro weight loss program. Babies have no medicine. Families have to walk miles in the heat to get only meal they may have in a day, all because of the corrupt Maduro regime. Your comments are so far from the truth. Cuba and Russia appreciate your support, Omar. And thank your lucky stars and your blessings. Thank the good Lord above that you were born here in America. If you are here in America, if you are not, Make it a point to make your country great again. Start the movement on making your country great again. Do the things that need to happen. Here is where it works. Capitalism, representative democracy, remove regulations and let the companies and businesses just start producing. And you've got an incredible example for it right here in America. God bless America, folks. I'm telling you right now, and God bless Donald Trump for being the president that he is and really knocking these things out of the park, making the tough decisions that he has to make and making the right decisions. It's finally nice to have a president who picks the winners, not the losers. Man. Anyways, all right, everybody, for Thursday Thoughts, have a good evening. I'll see you tomorrow for Freedom Friday.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at newrightnetwork.com.